Hello everyone, welcome to this video by DataSense. So we will continue our course on EDA. In the last video we discussed about the data collection methods, right? How you can collect your data, set up connection with either a CSV file or you can do with a SQL server or you can do with APIs and there or a text file. And there are multiple other methods which we will see over time, like how you can connect data with a cloud server as well. So those things are there. Now point is, let's say this step is done. So if you remember the machine learning pipeline, we had this step like data collection. Okay, so first step was data collection. Then we had, so after you collect, you have to pre-process your data. Okay, you have to make some adjustment, correct it before moving it to either analysis or making machine learning model. Okay, so whatever work you're going to do here, it is entirely very important, because whatever things that you need to whatever changes you will do, whatever analysis you will do, pre-processing techniques that you will follow here will highly impact your analysis and machine learning model. Okay, so there needs to be a proper strategy for data pre-processing, right? And that is something we will explore in this section. This is certainly going to be the lengthiest part of this particular course, because there are lot of techniques and I'm going to talk about almost all of them, because it's really important. Every case can be different, every scenario can be different, right? Now if we start taking any particular project, in a single project, right, let's say I work on a single project, not all of the pre-processing techniques will apply, but we need to have a systematic framework that, okay, let's say I get the data from somewhere. Okay, now this is the step number 1, step number 2, step number 3, like in this order I will do. Okay, 4, 5, 6 up to, let's say, n, right? These are the certain steps that I need to follow. Now in between I can skip some of the steps which are not required for that particular scenario, but we should have a good template, right? So that is something we will target, that creating a good template for data pre-processing. Okay, so we will take some examples here and different scenarios, and we will try to understand each of the methods. Okay, this if it sounds too daunting for you, don't worry about that. I mean, just understand what all steps are there. Okay, once we get on the project, we will make things more interesting. But also this is you try to understand, because raw data can be of any form, you cannot control that, and this is the major task as a data analyst. If you are working, your 80% of the time will go into the data pre-processing. Even people who are working in machine learning modeling, right, once you have built a machine learning model, everything is sorted. Major thing that you need to sort in is your data. So this task is very important. Okay, so I'll be covering lot of things. So this is not going to be a single video. We will upload a series of video of each of data pre-processing steps, so that you can understand each technique separately. Okay, so I hope you are clear what we are going to do. Now let's try to understand one more thing, that what all data pre-processing steps, the major data pre-processing steps are there. Okay, so let us say you get a data from somewhere. Okay, you got a data from your company. Okay, so what all steps you have to take? I'm just mentioning few of them, major things right now. First of all, you have to make an initial inspection. Okay, so for example, let's say you say, okay, I've got a data, right? Whether you want to do some removal of duplicates, handling missing values, feature correction, whatever thing you need to do, first of all you need to have initial inspection, that how does my data even look like. Okay, because you don't know, data could be of 500 columns, data could be of 10 million rows, data could be of 600 columns, 700 columns, 800 columns, it could be anything, right? Which all variables are important. So you need to have an initial inspection strategy. Once you're done with that, we will move towards handling missing values. So how do you handle missing values? Okay, once missing values are sorted, we will go about removing the duplicates. There is a strategy to remove duplicates as well. Okay, it's not that simple that you just removed everything. Okay, so how do you handle duplicates? That is also important. After that comes your scaling and normalization. So first comes scaling, then on 5th comes normalization. So what are these? We will talk about them in those videos only, because these are very little advanced concepts. Okay, after scaling and normalization, and then comes one hot encoding. Okay, one hot encoding is basically converting categorical variables into numbers. So we will see them later. After that is done, we will have Pearson coefficient. Okay, we'll do Pearson coefficient. Then comes a major part, that is weight of evidence. It is very, very important to understand. Okay, weight of evidence. Then comes information value. Okay, and then comes your principal component analysis, that is PCA. So these are the 10 major pre-processing techniques. Now each technique will have multiple layers inside it. So we will talk about each of techniques individually as well. But these are the major things that we are going to handle. Okay, so we will start with in this video we'll start with our initial inspection. Okay, the data set that we are going to use is a Bollywood movie data set which has 1000 rows. Okay, and 1000 rows, and it has 30 columns. We will see that, and it contains list of all movies, how they performed, who are their actors, directors, how whatever rating they got, like those kind of information is there. So we will do an initial data exploration on this part. So I will talk more about this in a few seconds from now. So this is about the setting up, that what we are going to do. Data pre-processing has multiple steps, and we will do steps one by one, and there will be separate video for each of the step, because everything if I club in a single video, it can become an 8 to 9 hour video and you will get very confused, right? So this is the gist of this whole particular course. So I want to do it very thoroughly, one by one, take it easy and try to understand. So let's move forward with the first part of this video. So before moving to the analysis, first of all, let's see the data that we have. So this data file is a CSV file, data cleaning Bollywood movies. Okay, so we will be using different data sets in this whole data pre-processing series. Okay, and once we complete that, we will when we start doing projects, we will use a single data set, and we will do an end-to-end analysis on that particular part. So this is the particular part. So we have movies. So if you see, we have a movie ID, and so let's see the number of columns that we have. So yeah, so we have 1000 rows, and we have a list of all the Bollywood movies that are present there. So like some 1000 Bollywood movies. We have director, genre, release year, budget. So if you see, there is text variable as well. There is a numerical variable, as there is categorical variable like rating as well, numerical value which can be summed as votes as well, and there are missing value as present as well if you see in the data. And let's move a little bit right. Okay, so there's critic score, remake, whether that movie is a remake or not. So NaN means blank, right? And no, yes, missing value. So these are the information which are present. We will not be analyzing this particular data in CSV, because we have to make habit to use and visualize this data in Python. Okay, so now you will have access to this particular file. You can check before analyzing if you want, but I will start analyzing this particular thing in Python only. So that's it. Now let's move towards Python. So we just saw the initial data set that we are having. Okay, now we will build an approach to data inspection. Okay, so before doing anything, before even visualizing or even doing any kind of thing, we just want to know about the data set. So assume right now that you have your eyes are blindfolded. You're seeing this data for the first time. You are encountering this data for the first time. So how will you go about it? Okay, you don't know anything, like you don't even know how many columns are there, how many rows are there. Okay, you just know anything. You are just given a file name. Okay, you're just given a CSV file with a name and a location. Okay, that's all you have. So how do you build approach from here? So first of all, what we are going to do is we need to learn how to import. So in this particular course, right, so we will be using the 4 major libraries that we discussed. Okay, so just let me zoom in a little bit. Okay, it is there. So we'll do import numpy as np and import pandas as pd. Okay, initially let's use these two only, because after that we will see. Now if you remember the pandas lecture, panda is an equivalent of SQL. Okay, so let us say you have this file name. So what you want to do, if you remember, we first want to load the data set. Okay, so first of all, what we are going to do, we are going to load this particular data set. Load the data set. Okay, so how to load data set? If you remember, So first of all, you need to know the working directory. So for example, let's say if I don't know, you just typed up pwd and okay, so the name pwd is not defined. Okay, so what you need to do is come here and let's say, yeah, so you got your working directory location. Okay, so now what you need to do, if you remember, simply create an object of data frame, object data. So if you remember, pandas has two types. Pandas has two types. Okay, it is a series and it is a data frame. Okay, and because this is a 2D data which we just saw, so we have to use data frame. Okay, and how are we going to use data frame? We are going to create an object, let's say df equal to. So how to read CSV? We use pd dot so remember, this is class. Okay, then so we have created an object, right? And using that object, what we are doing here, we are using the method read underscore CSV. Okay, so pd is a class, df is an object, and read CSV is the method. Okay, read CSV, and then we need to pass the location. So how do we define? So I know this, that okay, this is my initial and I have my file placed at my desktop. So this location can vary according to you, and my dataset name is data underscore cleaning. Okay, data cleaning underscore Bollywood underscore movies. Okay, so I have got this particular file and this is a CSV, so I will just make it CSV. Okay, so this is how you load a dataset inside your pandas data frame. So see, I'm able to load the dataset in my Python workbook. So now what is the first thing? I want to have an initial look. Okay, how does my data even look like? So what is the method? If you remember, we use data df.head. So if we use this particular part, so df, this is my object dot method, that is head, right? And by default it gives you 5 rows. So if we do like this, we see that there are 5 rows across 30 columns. This is what it has told me, because I have just chosen data by default 5. I don't know how many rows are there still. Okay, so let's see the variable movie ID, title, director, genre, release year, something something. And then if you see, I don't see all the variable list. If you see that there is these are not 30 variables. So remember, Python has a thing that if your data set has more than 20 columns, so what it does, it shows you first 10 and then it puts a dot 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 like this and it shows you last 10. So it does not show you all the columns. Okay, so what is the problem? That let's say your data set has 30 columns. So for example, in our case, we have 30 columns. It will show me first 10, it will show me last 10. Okay, 10 10, it will not show me this one. It will just like hide it. Okay, because it gets confusing. So but you can get rid of this. I mean, you can actually do that. So you can get it, and there's a method so of set option. So if you go to pandas, there is a pd dot set underscore option. Through this, what you can do, you can communicate to pandas, no, I want to see all the columns. So what you will enter, so there's a hyperparameter there, display max columns. Okay, display dot max and underscore columns. Okay, so you want to tell Python that I want to print all the columns which are there. And after this, you need to tell how many you want. Okay, so you're saying I want to display max columns, and this second hyperparameter asks, do you want to, how many you want to see or how many you want to hide? So you mention just none. I don't want to hide anything. I want to see all. Okay, now if you just pass this, and now if you run this particular code, you will see all the 30 variables. Okay, so this is an important part of uploading the data in pandas, that you have to use this display max dot columns method, sorry, set option, and that pass a none. Here none means I am not hiding any of the column. Okay, and this means display all the columns. So technically that's what we are doing. For example, let's say do it 2. So what is going to do that it is going to show me the first column and the last column. Let's say I do it 3. So what it shows, it say, so it, okay, in 3 just shows this. For example, let's say I do 4. So what will do it in 4? It will show you first 2 and the last 2. Okay, when you do 6, it will show you first 3 and the last 3. And when you do none, it will show you all. So that's how things are done if you want to just load the data in your pandas and see all the columns. So this was the first method, first thing, the first step, that you have loaded your data set and you just want to check which all things are there, which all columns are there. Okay, so now we will move forward with the next part. So I took the data, okay, and I have uploaded it into my Python, okay, using pandas data frame, and I am able to display all the result. Okay, now as I told, let's visualize this. Okay, so let's create a mind map here. We uploaded the data. Okay, do we know anything about them, how many rows or columns are there? Okay, while uploading we saw that, okay, there were some, because when you use the method head, it gives you top 5 rows, okay, and it gives you top 5 rows and gives you all columns. But let's say I want to get the structure, that how many rows and columns are actually in the data set. So what you can do is, there is a method called shape. Okay, so what shape does is, it returns you rows and columns of your data frame in a tuple format. Okay, remember, it returns in a tuple format. So that is the thing, and using that we can access anything that we want. So for example, what we do here, that let's say get the structure of my data set that I have. Remember, I don't know anything else right now. So structure. Okay, so let's do one thing, df dot shape. Okay, let's say I do this, p is equal to df dot shape. Remember, I told you df dot, what does shape do? It returns the column and the number of rows and the columns in form of a tuple. Okay, so first of all you assign, now this is the problem, that you cannot directly call a tuple. So if you have to call a tuple, what will you have to do? You will have to use tuple unpacking. And how it is done? It is done using rows comma column, okay, equal to df dot shape. And now what you will do, print rows, print columns. Okay, so tuple object df dot shape. Okay, so let's remove this, let's not directly call it. Okay, now I will get it. So let's do this one thing, df dot shape. Okay, so it gives me a tuple that, okay, these are, remember, when you use this, it means you're calling something. Tuple is not callable. Okay, I just give df dot shape, it gives me a tuple of number of rows and number of columns. So that was my first step. Now I want to access the number of rows and the column inside. So what I will do, I will unpack it. Now how to unpack it? It's very simple. We did, again I'm saying, rows comma columns equal to df dot shape, and you correspondingly you can print like something like this. So what you can do, you can use a printf statement, print, and let's use the f string literal, the data set has, for example, let's say rows and columns, LUMNS. Okay, so these many rows, so you need to write down rows, and these many columns. Okay, so now we did this and we need to close it. So I got the data set as 1000 rows and 30 columns. So this is how you can get the number of rows and columns which are present inside. Now let us say I want to get number of columns using some other method as well. So there is another method which you can use is df dot column. So what you can do is simply you do length. So there is a method of length. Okay, length function length method we can use to get the number of rows and column. If you don't want to use this, you can use length method. So what is that length method? So what you will do, first of all, that length, okay, and if you just pass the object, so what it will give you, it will give you the number of rows that are present inside your data frame. Okay, and let us say you want to get the number of columns. So what you need to do, you need to specifically mention df dot columns. Okay, so it will give you number of columns. So far what we did first of all, we used shape. Okay, now what does shape do? So let me just restart it. Okay, so in this section what we did, we used two methods. First method was shape and second method was to length, to get the dataset information. So what does shape do? Shape converts into a tuple of length comma like rows comma columns. Okay, rows comma columns, and you can use tuple unpacking to get access to this. And in length there are two. Remember, if you have to directly get the length of the rows, you just df. Okay, but to get columns you need to use length df dot columns. That's what you need to see. You cannot do this part, it will give you an error. For example, rows, okay, it will not give you. Data frame object does not have attribute rows. Okay, it only has attribute columns. So this is something you need to know. So I hope this part is clear, how to get the basic things, the columns and the information, that shape of your data set. That's what we have got so far. Okay, now we'll move ahead to getting the actual column names and all those details. So now that we know, we have uploaded our data and we know how many columns and rows are present, I'm interested in knowing the column names. Okay, so that should be your next step, that what all column names are there, and try to understand like how can I store them somewhere and how can I view them. Okay, so I'll directly go there to get the column name, right? So there are two methods which we can use. So first one which we saw, so get column names. Okay, so what we can do is simply, there's a df dot column, so you can do print df dot columns. Okay, so if you simply do this, it will give you your column name in form of an index object. So what is this index object? This index object is a built-in data structure inside Pandas. Okay, which you don't need to know. So major thing is that it is like list only. But problem is that, for example, what do you mean index? That 1 column 1, okay, 2 column 2. Okay, so it means there is an index and there is a value associated to it. The object, this is of a type object. If you see, data type is object. The problem is that this is immutable. You cannot change anything inside it. Okay, so if you want to change anything inside it, what you can do is you can simply convert this into a list. So how do you do that? You take df dot columns, okay, dot to list, okay, and you call it. Now it's pretty simple. Let's say my column underscore list equal to this. Now if I print column underscore list, so what it will show me all the variables in form of a list. So if you see movie ID, title, director, genre, release year, awards won, there are total 30 variables in this particular data set. And what is the data type? Let's check. Type of column underscore list. Generally it is preferable to have your information in a list because you might need to iterate it over times, right? That is why it is a good suggestion that always convert your things in a list. But you can have things here as well. If you just call df.columns, it will call all the columns in form of an index object. So that's about calling, getting your column names, getting familiar with, okay, what these are the columns present in my table to get some gist of data. So what I see, for example, I have a movie ID, title, director, okay, there's some information about movies, then there is rating, there number of votes, how the movie performed, director, cinematographer and all that. Then we have distribution, release date, weekend gross, total screen. So all the information that you could think of is present in this particular data for 1000 movies. Okay, so now we have what we have built. We uploaded our data set. Okay, we have our data. We understood the structure using shape. Okay, and now what I know the columns, what are columns are there. So this particular part I have done. Now I will move to the next part. Before we move ahead, one more thing I would like to mention is, okay, we did data, shape and column. There is also another method to get the column is called enumeration. Okay, so what does enumeration mean? That let's say you have a list. Okay, you want to see the list along with the index number. Okay, so what you can do there are, so you can use enumerate and simply, for example, let's say you have a list of apple, banana and orange. Okay, let's say you have this particular list. Now you want to print this using an index number. So what you will do, you will do 1 apple. Okay, you want to print something like this, 2 banana and 3 orange. Okay, so there are a lot of methods. I mean, one you can do is directly you can use index and add +1 to your index and print the list name. One is that method. One is another called enumeration. So what you do in enumeration, you just have to print the list. So for example, this is the list that we got of the column names, right? I want to write them down and with my number. So what I will say that for, let's say it will be a for loop for I, call in. When you do enumerate, what you do that enumerate and you pass this column list. So what it will do, it will convert this whole list in an index and a name. Okay, that's what it is going to do. Now after that, remember, when you have to explain things to a non-programmer, if you, in Python we know that our numbering starts from 0, but a non-programmer will get confused. What does it mean 0 apple? What does it mean banana, 1 banana, right? So it should start from 1. So what you can do here in enumeration, you can just simply say that start the indexing from 1. Okay, so what you do, you take the list, you say that I want the list index as well and I want the value as well. Okay, so there you use enumerate for I, I means index, call means the column name, whatever we are going to print. Okay, so you simply do this and let's say we do print. So what are we going to print? F string. Okay, let's start with F string. So first of all, we will print the enumeration, that is I, and then we will give a space and we will give COL. Okay, and we'll close this. So what is this doing? It is converting that list. So just let me help you visualize as well, because visualization is very important. All these codes you will find anywhere. The problem is visualization. So what is you are going to do? Enumeration, it takes a list or any object you take. It is not necessary it will take a list. You can give any object to it. So let's say this is the enumeration box which is present. You pass anything into it, any data structure. Let's say you pass anything A. So what it will do, it will convert it into an index and value. Okay, it will conduct it into a table like this, and then it is easy to view. So for example, let's say you want to print in a report, so there you use enumeration. Okay, so print this and let's do something like this. Okay, so let's say if we do like this, okay, we have got, these are my variable names. So now this looks very systematic. It's good to read, right? I mean, for example, right now in list, it's not very easy to read things because there are a lot of columns. So what you do, you enumerate them and convert into this, and you see all the variables that are present in your data set. So that is the main method. I hope it is clear to you. Now we will move to the next part. It is a it is, so for example, now we have all the column information with myself. Now I want to have the, so I have the data. Okay, I wanted column information, I have got that. I wanted row information, we will come to that in the end. Now we are coming to basic statistics of your data. Let's say I want to understand the basic statistics of these columns. Okay, so there are 3 to 4 methods which we will directly see. So what you do, statistics. Okay, statistics. Okay, so let's say you have this object df, right? Now what you can do, the first method is describe. So what does df.describe do? So you take your object df.describe. Okay, so it will give you a basic summary of all of your data set. So for example, mean, median, standard deviation, those kind of things for each of the variable that are present in, for each of the numerical variable. Okay, so what it does, for example, you have this your movie ID, right? So it will give you count, mean, standard deviation, minimum, 25 percentile, 70 percentile, 50 percentile max. So these basic information it will give you for all of the data set that you are having. And remember, it will exclude NaN values. So what I mean to say is that it is only taking, first of all, remember, what does describe do? It gives you only the character values, so numerical values. So this is an important thing to remember. So let me just load the data set. So what does describe do? It gives you a summary of all the numerical variables only. Okay, second, excluding NaN. Okay, excluding blank, or let's say NaN values which are present in your data set. So this is very important to know. It doesn't give you all the summary. So for example, let's say if you see budget, but your movie, there are 1000 movie IDs, right? But if you see budget, there is 868 because 132 values are missing in this. So wherever you see the number is not 1000, it means those values are missing. So that is the key thing present here. So this was your basic statistics using describe. Okay, and we will discuss more this in detail when we do our project. But right now, just to see where, for example, my budget has mean value of 177 and standard deviation of 84, minimum value of 50. Okay, rating, mean value of 3, standard deviation 1, max value of 5. So it means my minimum is 1 to 5, which means my rating is varying from 1 to 5, and it has a mean value of 3, something like this. Similarly, votes, weekend gross value, like all these variables you can interpret as per yourself. Now let's say I want to have everything. I want to have everything, like be it missing value, be it column, I want to have everything. So what I'm going to do, simple, I'm just copying this. Okay, there is a hyperparameter which goes inside this, and it says include equal to all. Okay, now you close it. Now if you're going to run it, so it is going to give you all the, for example, all the character values as well, description for all the character values as well. NaN is still not missing, but if you see, like it has got title, genre, so everything. If you want a text variable as well, it will bring you everything. So that's how it is present there. And I hope this particular part is clear. So it's a basic simple summary and statistics which you need to understand. Okay, so we will be using this extensively, df.describe. Okay, so now we'll move ahead. We'll discuss about how to get the row information. Okay, we have got we got columns, we got summary, and now we need to have rows. So these three things we need to have before analyzing my data. So how many columns are, what is the summary, what is the row information. Okay, so now we are moving to the third section, that is getting row information, okay, on various conditions. Okay, so as we just saw, we got columns, we got summary, and now it's time for rows, the CSR activity. Okay, so first of all, remember there are a lot of methods in getting rows. There are a lot of attributes, so we'll be writing them one by one because it's so that we in the end we can keep a track of everything. Okay, the first method is to use head and tail. For example, let us say you have a pandas data frame. You can use head and tail, and I think you guys already know what it means. Okay, so df, so let's first of all write that rows. Okay, now the first step is df to check is dot head. If you do this, just repeating, it will give you top 5 rows of your data set. Okay, so it will give you like this. Now you can customize this. If you just type in, for example, 10, so it will give you 10. Okay, so this is how you can vary information, whatever information you need. Now, so by default it is 5, and otherwise it is you can change depending upon yourself. The second is df.tail. So if head gives you top, then tail means it gives you bottom 5. Okay, so if you run this, it will give you bottom 5. So I hope this is clear. The head part gives you top 5 rows, tail part gives you bottom 5 rows. So this is the major thing. Now we come to the, just let me write it down. So head gives me top rows, this gives me bottom rows. Okay, so that's how it is. Now we come to the second part. This is also something we have already covered, that is iloc. Okay, what is iloc? It is location of your index, right? Index location, it means that. So what you can do that is, for example, you want any specific row, you can pass that. So how does iloc work? It takes iloc and row. I'm assuming right now we want all the columns, so we will keep everything, we'll just skip it, but you can alter column as well. We discussed this in the pandas video, right? So you can vary your row here. So for example, let us say I just want the first row. So what I will be doing is I'll go to my set. So df dot iloc and I will do 0. So what it will give me? The first row. So the first row is movie ID 1, title, PK, director, this, genre, this, something like this. I have got it. Okay, so this is your first row. Now let us say you want information from rows 10 to 19. Okay, for example, so, or let's say row 11. So what you will do, 10 to 20. So what it will give you? It will give you row number. So from movie number 11 to movie number 19, it will give you those information. So row number 10, that is movie number 11. Okay, and it will give you information up to movie number 20, that is row index 19. So that's how you can fetch it. Now for example, one more thing I would like to add. For example, you want only first 2 columns. Let's say you want 2 rows. So you want 0 to 2. Okay, you want first 2 rows and you want first 2 columns only. So what you will do, 0 to 2. This is something we did in pandas video as well. So you can vary number of columns and number of rows according to your situation, whatever you want. So this is a basic thing about iloc, that it is called as index location, and you can use it anywhere you want. Okay, so now we'll move to the next method. Okay, so we did iloc, we did head and tail. The third method that we are going to use is dot loc. So what is this? This is just like iloc, but here what we call any row based on the column row filter. Okay, we call rows based on some filter. Okay, and by passing the name, exactly what we want to filter. So let me just show you what it exactly means. For example, let us say from my data set, I want all those rows where director name is, for example, something specific. Let's say pick anything. Yeah, so let's say I want Yash Chopra. Okay, I want all the rows where my director name is Yash Chopra. So what I'm going to do is, let's see. So df dot loc, I will be using loc. Okay, and now my main thing starts. So I'll use, again, the filter is df and my variable name is, I think, director. Okay, director. Okay, and this should be equal to Yash Chopra. Okay, let's say I named this. Okay, so what I did, I used lock method, I am filtering those rows based on some name. Okay, and what is my name condition? That my director name should be Yash Chopra. So technically, if I just visualize this thing, so it will look like that you have data set. Okay, and you have, let's say, multiple rows here. Okay, 1 2 3 4 up to like something like this. You want to filter those rows where director name is Yash Chopra, Yash Chopra, let's say. Yes, so let's say you want this row, and this row. So you can do this method by LOC. Now let me run this. Let's check what the result is. Okay, so I got all the rows where director name is Yash Chopra. Or similarly, you can apply the filter to and any other rows as well. So that's about using the lock method. Okay, now so we covered the lock method here. So first we did, second, third, fourth we did lock. Okay, third was ilog. First was head, second was tail. Okay, these four things I have done. Now let's move forward with the next part. Is that, for example, let's say I have to get unique values. So how I can do unique values, that is the point here. So let's say if in a row I want only the unique values, so what can I do is simply I go to df. Okay, dot, I use again ilog. So let's say I want number of unique rows in my first row. For example, this is my first row, for example. So what will be my approach? First, I want to get the first row, get first row. Okay, then get unique values in it. Okay, these are the two steps. So how to get the first row? It's simple. We did ilog 0. Okay, so ilog 0, this will give me my first step. Okay, now what I need to do, I need to do dot unique. This is again a method which you need to remember. So now let's say I store it in unique. So let's first of all run this. Okay, so this will give me an object type, right? Just like we did with index value. So all the unique values will be present there. Now you can store it somewhere, and you can maybe call in a list, for example. That is something. So like, for example, dot to list. If you do dot to list, okay, and let's say you do something like this, p is equal to this, and let's print p. Okay, so that's how you have printed your unique values in a list. This is something which we already did in our previous example as well. So let me just update the list here. So we did head, tail, ilog, unique method. Okay, now let's move towards the non-nulls as well. Okay, so yeah. So after unique, I want to check non-nulls. So in my row, how many non-null values are there? So it is exactly similar to this. First of all, get the row that you want. For example, df. So what we will be doing, df dot ilog. Let's say again, this time I want row number 2. Okay, I use 1. Now use not null method. Okay, not null method, and you just call it. So if you print it, it will give you whichever values are non-null in your particular row. If you want to view that, again you can do this equal to z equal to this dot to list and convert this particular thing in a list. That's how things are done. These are basic things. I mean, you should remember these are some methods. Okay, that there is a method called unique to get unique rows. There is a method called non-null, not null to get the not null value. Okay, so see, it is giving you true. So whichever true information is there, it will get you that. Now let's move towards checking for missing value is in a row. For example, let's say I got non-null. Now let's say I want missing values. Okay, so how do I get the missing values? So to get the missing value, what we need to do is, again, it is a similar approach. There is a method called isNull. Okay, so what you will do, So for example, let's say you want to find rows with, let's change our objective. We want find rows. So instead of checking individual row, let's say find rows with any missing value. So means any missing value of any row has, let's get any missing value. Okay, so let me just first of all clear this particular part. I'll need to explain something conceptually here. Okay, so yes, so let's say we have a data set. Okay, so let us say we have a data set here with some values. Okay, it can have lot of values. Okay, now we want that there will be multiple rows here. Okay, so what does is null or not null do? So there were two methods in just the past. We saw not null. Okay, and there is another method called is null. So what do? They check cell by cell in each row. Okay, so for example, so let me just create a new, I'm sorry for, I just want to make it visually better, that's why. So let's say this is my data. Okay, this is my data and it has suppose 3 rows, something like this, and 3 columns. Okay, let's say this is my 3 rows and 3 columns. Now if there's a method called is null and not null. So what do they do technically is they will check each cell. Okay, now what is null going to do? It will check each cell. If that cell is null, it will mark it as true. Okay, if that cell is null, it will mark as true, and then if it is not null, it will mark it as false. So technically what is null, it creates a boolean value that true, 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 let's say true, false, true. So what is it going to do in, for this is row 1, this is row 2, this is row 3. Okay, in each row it will check, does my row contain any value which is it should have at least one missing, one non-null values, right? So we want those information that, for example, row should have at least one missing value or a null value. So what we do here is that we use access. Okay, along with that, so the method that we use is dot, so df is null. Okay, so what is null going to do? It will create a matrix like this. Okay, now after this we have to use any method, any, okay, and access equal to whatever you want. So what does any access do here? That it will check. So remember, true means 1, false means 0. Okay, so if you say any access equal to 1, it means it will return all the rows, which any row. So technically it means it will return any row which has at least 1 present. So at least 1 means it has at least 1 true present in its row. So in this, if you see, it will return this. Will it return this? So it has no, so I mean it has no false value, right? So it is all the true. So it will return this as well. It will return this as well. Now for example, if there were a row which only had false, 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 that is no null value, so it would not have returned that value. Okay, so to summarize this thing, how to get the null values from my data set? I want to get any row that is not null, that is null. So we use df dot is null. Okay, dot is null, and dot any access equal to 1. So access equal to 1. So what in is null do? If it is null, it means true, and if it is non-null, it means false. Okay, true means 1, false means 0. So when you say dot any access equal to 1, it will return all those rows which have at least 1. So this is the simple concept. Now let's go to the question. Okay, so what we want to do, we want to get those particular rows where we have at least one row. So what I'm going to do, find rows with any missing value. So let's keep it rows is equal to, so df, okay. So I need to get from my data frame. So df dot is null, okay, and what you need to do is null dot any, okay, and then in bracket you need to write access equal to 1. If you wanted all false, you would have said access equal to 0. You will do this. Now once you do this, you just need to close the bracket. So now print, let's say, rows. Okay, so it will return all those rows which have at least one missing value. So that is how things are done here. So I know it can be little getting the syntax can be little confusing, but if you just try to understand what each thing means, it will be easy. For example, now if you do 0, okay, so there's nothing, right? So unalignable boolean provided by the indexer, right? Index of the boolean series, they do not match. So that is the problem. So you need to do x is equal to 1. So this is how things are done. And now let's say I just do something like this. X is equal to 1, x is equal to 0 will give me this. Okay, if you just want to check which all rows had something missing, so you will just simply put x is equal to 0. So that is something the objective of your is null. Now let us say I want to check the summary of my rows. So moving to the next part, that is get summary of any row. So what we will do, that simple summary we already did. What we have to do, for example, let's say you have any row, df dot ilog, let's say you pick up any row. Let's say we are picking row number 6, okay. You want its information, so you do describe, okay, and then you will close it bracket. So if you do this, it will give you a basic summary, count, unique values, top, frequency, and all those information. Okay, so that's how things are done. Now there are a couple of more methods that we will discuss after this. So one more thing, for example, let us say we have a data set. Okay, so what do I have? I have a row in row number 0, and I have an information 1, information 2, information 3, information. Let us say I want to iterate over these rows and do something. For example, I want to print each rows. So there is an method called iter rows. So what it does, that it iterate over each rows, and each row has two characteristics. It has an index and it has the value. So you can print any of that information using iter rows. Okay. So how it is done is that once you do this, it will convert it into a tuple, right? Just like we did it in shape. So it will convert it into a tuple, and then you can refer to any object. So how do we use that? For example, let's say, so any row will have two things, right? For index, it will have an index, and it will have, let's say, row information, row. Okay. In what you do, df dot iter rows. Okay, and then you write. So now you're iterating over this. Now what you will do, let's print, first of all, let's print the index name. Okay, so I'll call it f. Okay, and let me say index, and then I pass the value of index here. So whatever thing I have created. Okay, and I close this, and then in the next line I print the row, print my row, whatever value it is. So see what it does, index 0, this is the row. Okay, and it will go on, it will keep on going, right? So what you do, if you just want to see one thing, you can just put a break here, because there are 1000 rows, so it will keep on going. If you just want to see one row, you just see the information of one particular row. that's how you can do using iter rows. If you want to specifically see any segment through any particular row you want to see, that is something you can do using this. Now I'll move forward one more thing, that is filtering, selecting row based on some conditions. I think we already did it, but let's say like we selected based on name. For example, I want to select those rows where, for example, let's say variable budget. Okay, there is a budget greater than 100. So what I will do, df. Okay, so I'll say df and pass the variable name, for example, budget, and I want it to be greater than, sorry, so df budget needs to be greater than 100. Okay, so I'll close this, and it will give me all the rows where budget value is greater than 100. So this is something you can do. Let's say I do greater than 1000. So there is nothing. Greater than 900, there is nothing. So let's say greater than 800, there should be something. Okay, strange. Greater than 400, 150. Okay, so yeah, you got something like this. So this is how you select filter based on your conditions. Okay, and let us say you just want to sum everything. For example, sum all the budget value where budget is greater than. So what you will do, dot sum, you will simply add it. Okay, so yeah, I just need to cross check one more thing. You do, okay, sorry, my bad. So what you need to do is, let's say df budget greater than 150. Yeah, so what we need to do, we need to call it is this, like this. This is my sum. So let's say sum of budget, okay, equal to, so what you do, you call this tuple and dot sum. Okay, and now if you print, let's say sum of budget, okay, so it will give you this particular thing. So it will give you 457. Yeah, so that's how you need to call the things that you want to sum everything. So first of all, you need to create an object from this, and then you need to pass a method to it, right? You cannot directly pass a method to another method. So that's what I was doing wrong. So these are the various operations of using rows. So I will just give a summary now of whatever we covered in this particular video. The first was, so remember, this is initial inspection. Initial inspection, you just want to have some basic understanding of data without because you don't know things, right? So what you do, first of all, you take the data, you get shape. Through shape you get the column information and all that. Okay, then you filter columns, you get nulls and non-nulls, those information you get. Okay, then you use basic things, then you do some statistics. Okay, after statistics you use describe. Okay, and remember, to get the column names there were multiple methods. So like there one was enumerate. Okay, one was using columns directly, one was using some other method, then converting those column name into list, right? How you can actually view those things. Then for rows we saw a lot of methods, like 8 to 9 methods, I think. Sorry, 11 methods we saw for rows. So I mean, like getting head, tail, correct, and then getting null values, non-null. Okay, then iloc we saw lock as well, how to use lock. Then we saw how to filter based on some value. Okay, and then filtering. So these are the overall objective things. So there are a lot of functions, methods that you will see here. You might need to remember, but just try to understand. This is a basic first session, that whenever you see the data for the first time, what all steps you should follow to understand it thoroughly. Okay, again, I just showed you the methods. When you see the data, if you really have to analyze, right, you need to spend a lot of time on each of the variables, and that's why I say that around 80% of the time goes on investing, checking what all values, like how the data is scattered there. Okay, so thanks for watching this video. There will be an assignment to this in the along with the PDF file. the IPVNB file. So try to solve them. In the next video, we will talk about some basic visualization. Then we will move towards missing values and all that. So thanks again for watching this video. Please subscribe to our channel if you have not, and really looking forward for the next videos. Thanks a lot.